Welcome to Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frezza, on the road in San Francisco. This week is Teacher Week, but not in the conventional sense. In the second half of our show, we'll talk to serial entrepreneur and president of the MIT Alumni Association, John Chisholm, about his new book, Unleash Your Inner Company, that sets out to teach the basics of entrepreneurship to anyone. Up first, we're pleased to welcome Sal Khan, founder and CEO of the eponymous Khan Academy, an online self-paced learning environment that's revolutionizing global education. Sal, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Sal, I'm sure these statistics are already obsolete, but your Khan Academy reaches over 6 million students a month. Your videos have over 500 million views. From your early days tutoring your cousins, and it's a well-known story, what was the first moment that you realized you might be onto something really big?
Well, yes, and those statistics are a little obsolete. We're probably going to cross 20 million students this month.
Wow.
Yeah, the video views, I think they're approaching a billion, and we've had over 3 billion exercises done. Yeah, it's well, anyway, to answer your question, as you mentioned, this all started to some degree in 2004, where my cousin Nadia needed help with math. Actually, she didn't know she needed help. She had just convinced herself that she wasn't good at math, and because of that, she was being tracked into a slower math class. But when I found out about that, I was like, look, I think with a little bit of help, you could get back on track. And she was willing. And for me, the first data point was Nadia, that I would say the first week or two where it was incredibly difficult. She had convinced herself that she just wasn't good at math. It was hard to engage with her. But after a few weeks of just every day, we were on the phone. We were remote. I was in Boston. She was in New Orleans. After a few weeks of that, it started to click with her. And unit conversion was what she was having difficulty with.
From the book,
And she got it. And then once that clicked and she realized that she is capable of learning math, she just started racing ahead. And I joke that I became a tiger cousin at that point. And I call up her school and I say, I really think Nadia should retake that placement test. And they say, who are you? And I say, I'm her cousin.
Right.
And they let her. And the same Nadia that a few months ago was being placed into a remedial class was now being put into the advanced class.
So you discovered your genius and your calling as a teacher. But when did the idea of scale first occur to say, my God, I can change the world?
Well, there's been a couple of times. One was in 2005, which was actually the start of the, when I got the domain name khanacademy.org. And it had nothing to do with videos at the time, but my background was in software. I think anyone who's ever in software has always said, well, this could be used to help people learn.
Right.
And so the first incarnation of Khan Academy was this exercise platform for my cousins. And the hope was that, wow, if this works, this could be used for a lot of folks. And it was working well, but it never got the type of traction that I was hoping for initially. And then it was in 2006 where a friend said, well, how are you scaling up your actual lessons? And I said, I'm not. And he said, well, you make some videos of your lessons and put them on YouTube. And, I said, YouTube's for cats playing piano, not serious math. But I put those out there, and I thought these would just be these neat little supplements for the software, this very serious software that I had written. But it was
not the main thing.
It wasn't initially the main thing. And even today, I would say it's not the main thing. But when I saw first the data point from my cousins that literally said, we like you better on YouTube than in person. But then you start getting these letters or these notes or these YouTube comments from people all over the planet.
Right.
And in the early days, this was early 2007.
8,000 miles away.
8,000 miles away. Someone saying, hey, I passed my algebra exam because of that video. Or I thought I was no good at math. Now I want to be an engineer. And at that time, it was only, in the first few months, there was only a few hundred people who were saying this. But I was like, wow, this is just the random people who happen to stumble on this. But for that person, it had a real impact.
It was life-changing.
And so there's no reason why this couldn't have that same impact for more people. And obviously, when you appreciate what, like software, video, on-demand video, the reach is endless.
And the infrastructure itself is built to scale to begin with because of the cat videos.
Because of the cat videos had a purpose in our
to pave the way for you
in our civilization's development. Absolutely, and also is the nature of the content too. That in Silicon Valley, people think, oh, it's all about the platform content. That goes away. That's a commodity. But this type of content, math, physics, chemistry, it's evergreen.
It doesn't change.
It doesn't change really. I mean, it changes slowly. And if you do a good version of it, it could be there for our grandkids or our great-grandkids.
You can still watch the Feynman lectures in physics. He's gone. But if you want to watch someone do physics, there you go. You've been called, I'm going to quote this, you've been called a quasi-religious figure in a country desperate for a math Moses. In the broadest sense of the word, are you on a religious mission?
Actually, I don't ever remember reading. That's fascinating. I'm still processing your statement.
It might have been in a book review.
I don't know if a religious mission is the right word.
In a broad sense.
I mean, in the sense that not just myself, and Khan Academy is much more than just me now. We have nearly 100 full-time folks on our team, supporters.
Well, you have acolytes, you have followers.
I have team members. And I think everyone does realize how important education is. And everyone realizes that if you can empower more people, it could have very wide-reaching impact on
everything.
Everything. When I come to work every day, it is, we say it a lot at our meetings where we say, look, it's all about the mission, and we'll read letters from people and look, this is what we're doing it for. I think a lot of people who are either volunteering for Khan Academy, giving to Khan Academy, working at Khan Academy, I think that is what keeps them going. I mean, obviously, everyone needs a paycheck and everyone wants to work on cool problems. But at the end of the day, it's this idea that we have a shot at really affecting a lot of people's lives.
I'd like to deconstruct your motto. You can learn anything for free for anyone forever. Let's start with you can learn anything. Really? I mean, it's easy enough to come up with counterexamples. You will never teach me to paint a recognizable portrait.
There are better counterexamples than that.
Okay.
I think you can learn to paint a recognizable. I think that for sure you are capable of doing. If you said, you'll never teach me to slam dunk a basketball, I'd say, yeah, maybe that might be.
Okay. But you can learn anything is pretty bold.
It would be less of a catchy line if it was said you can learn anything within reasonable constraints. But I think actually it is much broad. Like you just articulated, at least in your own mind, a limit on your ability, which I actually would actively question. I actually think if you did step out of your comfort zone, and even though your first painting might not look that recognizable, and your second one and your 20th one might not, I think if you found the right mentors and if you had the right mindset, I think with effort you would surprise yourself on how recognizable of a painting you could make.
So you think my own inability to conceive of myself as an artist is a block that I put up, not that the world or my talent puts up?
Yeah. And it's not just me, trying to be optimistic. There's a lot of research that backs this up. There's folks like Carol Dweck at Stanford and Angela Duckworth at University of Pennsylvania who talk about the importance of mindset. Carol Dweck talks about growth mindset. Angela Duckworth talks about grit and perseverance. And it's these ideas that people have one of, broadly speaking, either a fixed or a growth mindset. Fixed mindset people say, I either have the painting gene or I don't. I either have the math gene or I don't. While someone with a growth mindset says, okay, right now I can paint at this level or I know math at this level and I might find it hard, but if I keep pushing myself out of my comfort zone, that's the only way that I'm going to really know my potential. And what you articulated was a fixed mindset. And the cool thing is that there's a whole science of interventions to help you realize that you could have a growth or to help you build your growth mindset. When you realize that every time you apply yourself, and especially when you fail, that's when your neurons grow and that you're moving in the right direction, even though it might not feel like it in the immediate sense. I do think you can learn anything.
So in the nature-nurture battle, you're a nurture man.
Look, nature is part of it. For example, I'm not going to say that I can learn to beat LeBron James in one-on-one basketball. I am willing to say that I can be a much, much better basketball player than I am today if I
let yourself.
If I let myself.
So you bring up physical examples, but what about intellectual? I mean, it is true that people have different intellectual capabilities. Intelligence is not single-dimensional, but don't we have to recognize that somewhere?
I think it's even more important on something like intelligence than it's something physical. Not to overuse the analogy, but you look at me, you look at LeBron James, he's a foot taller, he's can jump higher, faster, everything, more coordinated.
Can't fix that.
That's harder to fully address. But on intelligence, we don't understand the human brain, and right now we have a system where we equate slower with somehow less potential. I mean, literally the word slow is often equated with not that smart. And if anything, my experience is people who sometimes take the time to really process something or need more time to process it, they're processing it potentially at a deeper level. The person who can race through it and get the answer, they might do okay, they can jump through all the hoops, but they might be less likely to make the seminal discovery than the person who's really been questioning and really letting things marinate in their brain. So I think this notion of growth mindset and you can learn anything is especially true in academics. And math, I'm 100% sure. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but you probably have 50, 60, 70% of the population today that says, oh, I'm not good at math.
Yeah, I can't do math. I'm not good. You don't believe it?
I don't think that's true for a second.
So Sal, in your motto, it's very important that it be for free. Why is it important that your educational products be free?
I thought about this when Khan Academy started off as a hobby and people were using it, and I got a lot of emotional value out of, wow, people are really finding this valuable. And I had a day job. I was an analyst at an investment firm. And once Khan Academy got a little bit of traction, a lot of people started coming up to me. And so a lot of my friends are investors, venture capitalists, say, hey, we'll fund this thing right now. It's got a lot of promise. But it was always meeting too, where they said, we'll keep all this stuff free, but maybe we'll do this stuff that's for pay. And it always felt it was the most valuable things that we were going to put a pay gate on.
Right.
And when I really thought about it, I was like, well, that kind of undermines a lot of this goodwill that I felt and that was being generated and this empowerment that was happening. If anything, it's that most valuable content that you want, that should be the most free and the most accessible. And so that was a lot of the thinking behind, look, you know, if this could be such a high leverage tool for society, you got to make it free. Now, how can markets support that? Well, no, there does seem to be market failure here because it makes so much sense for society for it to be free.
There's got to be a way to close a loop.
And that's the role of a not-for-profit. A not-for-profit doesn't have to be in every domain. A lot of for-profits do great things where they are, but there are parts of our system where markets aren't working.
Well, because you can't directly capture the value you create.
Correct.
You're creating all this value. It's not capturable. Is there someone else who sees it and is willing to support it? And you figured that out.
And it was a bet. When Khan Academy was incorporated as a not-for-profit in 2007, 2008, it was a strange not-for-profit. It was kind of a Silicon Valley tech, high-growth scale thing with this video stuff. There wasn't really a not-for-profit quite like it. And actually, it was hard to get the supporters initially because it was hard to pattern match.
The stories in your book are wonderful. I do recommend it to everyone. The One World Schoolhouse.
That's right.
So let's get back to your motto. For anyone. What do you mean anyone?
I literally mean for anyone. It's
any age, any geography.
Age. And you know, this comes from in those early days when I had put videos out and I started getting letters. Obviously, a lot of them were from the usual suspects. It was a middle school student who was having trouble with algebra or a high school student trying to understand trigonometry. But it was a lot of parents. Sometimes the parents thinking on behalf of their kids. But a lot of times it was, you know, a parent saying, I felt intimidated when my son or daughter asked for help with their math.
Right.
Now I can go here and feel like I can engage with them. I got it from grandparents who are also tutoring their grandkids, but I also got it from senior citizens who said, I find this stimulating. This is what I want to do. You know, there was this crazy letter that I got in the early days, and it was like the saddest and happiest thing that I ever got, where it was this woman was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And she wrote, I have 3 months to live. I've always had a math stigma, especially around calculus. I'm going to spend the next 3 months learning calculus.
Isn't that something?
You know, I didn't know to laugh or cry when you read something like that. And the beauty of this modality is she might have felt that her whole life, but she was afraid. She was afraid of being judged. She was afraid of who knows what.
She wanted that self-actualization before she went.
And now she could do it in a non-judgmental way on her own terms, potentially from the hospital. Like, it was a...
magical.
Yeah, but sad and yeah, altogether, you know, kind of an incredible story.
The last word in your motto is forever. What do you mean forever?
The dream for Khan Academy, you know, I always cite, even when people join Khan Academy, there's a series of science fiction books that I highly recommend. And one of them is the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov.
Of course. And
I was enamored by that when I first read it in middle school because it was, you know, this notion of the Galactic Empire is 30,000 years in the future, and this Harry Seldon, who's this kind of mathematician, economist, is able to predict that the Galactic Empire is about to enter into a dark age, meaning in the next 300 years.
Yep.
It's going to be a 10,000-year dark age. And he sees this through his economics/mathematics and says, I'm not going to be able to stop the dark ages.
Can I shorten it?
What if I can shorten it to 1,000-year dark ages? And he creates a foundation with all of the world's knowledge. And I remember, you know, when I first read that, it gave me chills. I was like, wow, that's such an epic scale. How come people don't think on that scale? And when Khan Academy started to happen, I started getting these letters from people. And I read a lot of science fiction if it's not obvious. And I said, what if this could be like a foundation? This was the purpose of the great libraries of history, even
Alexandria,
to preserve knowledge, to keep us from entering dark ages and losing it, and making sure people are empowered. But now we can do it with a scale that, you know, the librarians in Alexandria could have never fathomed. Maybe, and it was delusional when I'm one guy operating out of a walk-in closet, but maybe Khan Academy could be this thing. And so when we say forever, I hope in long after I'm gone, in 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, imagine if this thing is there, and people just assume when you're born, regardless of where you're born,
open your tablet,
or at that point it'll be like, press a button on your brain or something, and you plug into this universe of knowledge, and where you get born or how you get isn't going to be a barrier to that.
One of the aha moments I had reading your book, which of course you had along the way, is the problem with Swiss cheese learning. Tell us about that.
One thing that I observed, even amongst a lot of my friends and even myself, is we all at some point hit a wall at some class. And oftentimes our reaction is, I just don't get that class anymore. This is too advanced for me. But especially when I observed a lot of friends that maybe hit that wall in algebra, which is the first wall that a lot of students hit, I was like, wait, this person's my close friend. They beat me at chess when we, after school.
Yeah,
they're super sharp. They read all these books. Something's going on here. Is it how the algebra is being explained? Then you keep observing this. Then when I started working with Nadia, I saw it firsthand that it wasn't the unit conversion. It was just she was confused by some more fundamental ideas, and either she was unaware of it or she was embarrassed by it. She didn't want to say, I don't understand this third grade concept or this fourth grade concept. And so this idea is that because we're all pushed in a traditional academic model at the same pace, we have a module on
it starts,
exponents.
It finishes, we move on.
It starts, it finishes. Maybe you mastered it. Maybe I only got 80%. But even if I only got 80%, I didn't know 20% of the material, the whole class moves on to the next concept. That 20% is now a gap in my knowledge. It's forming this Swiss cheese gaps. And you have enough of those gaps, and especially in something like mathematics.
Sure, it builds on itself.
You're going to hit a wall.
So does history.
So does history.
As an adult, you start reading history, you realize it builds on itself.
It builds on itself, and I think in all of these areas, in history, you can kind of scaffold from various starting points
and fill it out more easily.
While in math, unless you know that we actually have a team member who's one of the smartest people I know, and he flunked calculus 4 times, and
it wasn't until later that he tried.
He gave up after the 4th, and he dropped out of college, but he ended up doing incredibly successful, a very bright guy. But then later he realized, and he saw this when he went to Khan Academy when he was in his 30s, that he was getting the calculus, but he missed the day in middle school where they teach you what a negative exponent is. So in calculus, he just missed it. So whenever he was taking the derivative, when a negative exponent was involved,
he blanked.
He blanked. He didn't understand how to do it, but it was that one gap from middle school. And he wasn't even cognizant of it. We all have them.
So your material is all self-paced.
Yeah. A lot of people associate us with this large video library, and we obviously are that, and people could use just that to fill in gaps, and et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of what we focused on is our learning software, which once again is we're not for profit, for free, forever, where students go, they take a diagnostic. Based on that diagnostic, it understands what they know and what they don't know, and then it starts making recommendations to them for them to fill in their Swiss cheese gaps, build a strong foundation,
to the next level,
and then move them ahead and ensure that they're mastering things as they learn them.
This self-paced learning by doing is such an important part of your story. I watched my own son go from being an indifferent B student to honestly a brilliant autodidact as soon as he got out of the classroom and into the laboratory. It was a startling transformation. He was driven by a particular set of personal goals, but how do we generalize this so more young people can experience that inner drive for learning?
It's an interesting question, and I think part of the answer is if we can take things like lecture and a lot of these core skills out of the classroom, so students can do them on their own time and pace without Swiss cheese gaps, one, I think they'll enjoy that more.
Sure.
But then it frees up a lot of class time for doing the more exploratory type of work, doing projects, having a dialogue, or getting out of the classroom altogether and doing a field study.
Getting the answers to questions you care about.
Exactly. So, we actually have a lab school downstairs from our offices. It's right under where we are right now, and that is actually the principle that it operates on, is that they use tools like Khan Academy to learn at their own pace, get their core skills, but then that liberates a significant chunk of the day so that they can work on things that are of interest to them, while making sure that they have all the I's dotted and T's crossed on their core skills.
Your book notes that passivity has to be taught because it's highly unnatural. Why do we make it the foundation of the public school classroom, going so far as to drug children because they're too rambunctious?
Anyone with children will tell you, anywhere between an 8-month-old all the way up to a 4 or 5-year-old, if there's an interesting object in the room, they will cry if they can't explore it.
Right.
And they will explore it in a million different ways and try it out and throw it and press every button and see how it works, and they'll be mesmerized by it, and they want to move around and explore. But then you go to first or second grade, you sit at a desk pretty much 90% of the day, quietly, fingers on your lips. You're not allowed to even fidget. And that's just an unnatural state. Now, why is it? I don't think it's because anyone is trying to be mean or anything like that. I think it was just the realities of when our current education system was architected roughly 200 years ago.
You have a great set of chapters on that.
It was, how do you do free mass public education?
Right.
And
the Prussian way.
The Prussian way. And, I pick a lot on the Prussians. At the time, it was actually a very forward-thinking idea, the idea of free mass public education. And at the time, it might have been the best way. But the only way you could do it is someone lectures, because you didn't have on-demand video. In fact, textbooks weren't even freely available when it was first architected. And you broadcast the information, people sit, listen. And even, to be frank, the sitting and listening was also important for that time of history. We need a lot of people to work in the Industrial Revolution.
Right. You were training a labor force.
We don't have
that kind of labor force anymore.
Now we need people who question, who explore, who think of new ideas, who are able to self-learn the new concept, the new technology that emerges every 18 months. So it has to be a different model. And I write about this, the schools of the future, and we have lab school, we do have other schools that we work with. Kids should be able to walk around. There should be peer-to-peer tutoring. There should be a mixed age exploration.
Right. Learn from your older siblings.
Everyone is a teacher. Everyone is a learner, including the teachers. The school should focus on isn't just about pushing content into the student's brain. It's about giving them the metacognitive skills of learning how to learn, learning how to pull up.
And the love of learning.
And the love of learning.
Sal, you've accomplished so much. You seem to be the kind of person who works 100 hours a day. And yet in your book, you've said that if I can't have dinner with my kids, give them a bath, and read them a book before going to bed, something is wrong in my life. My son, the autodidact, has become a feverish workaholic. I'm enormously proud of him. How can I help him understand the importance of work-life balance?
Yeah, it's kind of, in the book Siddhartha, which is one of my favorite books, there's kind of this idea is that you can't appreciate something unless you experience it yourself. And I think we've all had those moments in life where we maybe got so immersed in what we were doing that you started to lose control over. You were consumed. I mean, I remember in the old Bugs Bunny where the devil shows up and wants to sign over people's soul. It's like, what does it mean to sell your soul? And you start to appreciate that when you are in those moments over like, oh my God, I need to spend more time with my family, and I just appreciate now how important it is. And I have to give a lot of credit to my boss at, ironically, the hedge fund that I worked at for, the bulk of my finance career, where I was straight out of business school. I was ready to I'm ready to do, I'm ready to take that hill, whatever you want me to do. I'll work 100 hours. And he used to tell me, go home, Sal, go home. I'm like, no, I don't need to go home. I'm ready to do whatever it takes. I was ambitious. And he said, no, you don't get it. We're here to make decisions. And if you work yourself silly, we're going to make bad decisions. And the best way to make good decisions in work or in life as an investor is to go home, recharge, have a life, have perspective.
Take the weekend off.
But when you come, be there and be ready to. And he was right. It also, frankly, gave me the space to work on my passion, which was Khan Academy. And so now that I'm, I consider myself the luckiest person on the planet. I get to work on this thing that started off as my passion. Now it is my full-time passion. But now I have a family now, and I realize that as tiring as kids are, and I have my third now, and by the third you realize my oldest is 6. That went fast. He went from infant to 6-year-old overnight, and I'm sure he's going to go to college. And I have to cherish, as tiring as it is, as sometimes frustrating when they have a tantrum or whatever else. Those are moments that that's why you live your life. And Khan Academy is super important, but it's number 2 after my family.
Sal, your energy and enthusiasm is so infectious. I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I do have to let you go back to work. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
That was Sal Khan, founder and CEO of the Khan Academy and author of The One World Schoolhouse, Education Reimagined, here on Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frezza. You can check out Real Clear Radio Hour on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Real Clear Frezza. And stop by RealClearMarkets.com, my go-to place for diverse views on political economics. Real Clear Radio Hour is a not-for-profit, donor-supported program. Please stop by RealClearRadio.org and hit the donate button or contact us to become a corporate supporter. Ahead, serial entrepreneur and author John Chisholm explains how to unleash your inner company. Stay tuned.